National Coming Out Day has been celebrated worldwide on October 11th on a yearly basis since 1998. It was first celebrated on the one-year anniversary of the 1987 National March on Washington for Lesbian and Gay Rights, a date chosen to honor the bravery of LGBTQ+ individuals who decide to come out and live openly. Coming out basically means expressing your sexuality to the world in order to end the stigma. This special day of the year encourages individuals who are part of the queer community to come out of the closet and to do it proudly. Being out and proud is liberating, and it is sure to completely transform your life for the better. As someone who was born in the 60s, I was not able to safely come out until later in life. I was fortunate that one of my life mentors taught me the importance of being my authentic self, that my life must align with my actions, and that I must be true to myself without ever having to explain. I currently volunteer for a local LGBTQ+ organization in my home community. At a recent event, a young 5 or 6-year-old boy asked me if he could have a pride sticker to put on his shirt. I gave him the sticker, and before he walked away, he said, "Mister, I have a question. What does pride mean?" To which I responded, "Pride to me means that I am happy with who I am." Happy National Coming Out Day. My wish for my fellow members of the queer community today and always is may you find the courage to show the world that you are happy with who you are. Be your authentic self. Live it and celebrate it.
International Day of Older Persons. The purpose of this holiday is to increase awareness of the impact of having an aging population. We want people in society to be able to grow old with dignity. We're fortunate to have older people around us, whether they're family, friends, or just general acquaintances. Older people are fonts of wisdom, experience, and storytelling. They can inspire us to continue striving or warn us of dangers we're unaware of. We should look to them for guidance whenever and wherever possible. Unfortunately, far too often we tend to forget, or worse, downright ignore, the older people in our lives. That's one of the many reasons why the International Day of Older Persons on October 1st is such a terrific holiday. Number 1, the world is getting much older. Almost 900 million people in the world are older than 60. By 2050, 2 billion people, or 22% of the planet's population, will be that age. In fact, by 2050, for the first time in human history, there will be more people over 60 than there are children in the world. Number 2, longevity is becoming commonplace. According to the UN, life expectancy worldwide rose from 46 to 68 years between 1950 and 2010. It's expected to rise to 81 years by the end of this century. Number 3, happiness increases with old age. According to a recent study, most people are happiest in youth and then once they reach their 70s and 80s. Most people reported that they were the least happy in middle age. Number 1, chat with an older person. If we take the time to get to know an older person, even one right in our own family, we may see them in a new light and learn something about ourselves in the process. Number 2, volunteer your time. There's a lot that can be done to make life easier for older people. Find out about organizations in your area that work with the elderly and see what you can do to help. Number 3, become an advocate. The United Nations says enhanced attention to the particular needs and challenges faced by many older people is clearly required. It's important to recognize, as the UN also says, the essential contribution the majority of older men and women can continue to make to the functioning of society. So please remember on October 1st, the International Day of Older Persons, why this day is important. Thank you.
National Plus Size Appreciation Day is on October 6. Founded by Women Rock in 2017, this day is meant to boost the confidence for people of size all around the world, despite society's stigma on how people are supposed to look. Fat phobia is a rampant issue in society, but easily ignored. Though there are more women in the US over size 12 than not, most clothing retailers refuse to cater to plus sizes. People of size are often kept out of marketing campaigns. Weight stigma among doctors is particularly problematic, as many doctors default to weight as the cause of a problem and assume weight is a result of poor diet. Furniture is often bought without consideration of the people who might need to sit in it, leading to discomfort and humiliation. I have even personally been in the room to hear a manager refusing to hire a person simply because of their weight. On this upcoming National Plus Size Appreciation Day, take a moment to celebrate the plus-size people in your life. Encourage them to embrace their appearance and shed the shame society has tried to force them to live under.
October is Italian American Heritage Month, and indeed, Italians and their descendants are an integral part of the United States history. Even the name America derives from Amerigo Vespucci, a merchant from Florence who explored the northeast coast of what's today Brazil and is credited with being among the first Europeans to figure out that they were exploring not the West Indies, but an entire continent constituting a so-called New World, as he described it in 1503. Let's talk about this for a moment. These explorers, including the Genoese navigator Christopher Columbus, never even reached the land that would eventually become the United States. But in 1524, another Florentine finally did. Giovanni da Verrazzano sailed along the Atlantic coast of North America, interacting with the local indigenous peoples and journaling extensively about the experience. It bears mentioning that, first, none of these men identified as Italian because the nation of Italy would not exist until 1861. And second, this narrative of discovery ignores the millions of indigenous people who already lived on this land for tens of thousands of years. Still, the United States has Italians in its history, including its early wars. Luigi Palma di Cesnola was a Civil War colonel who fought for the Union Army, and later became the first director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, around 4 million Italians immigrated to the United States, and today some 16 million Americans claim Italian ancestry. Like many other immigrant groups, the story of the Italian-American experience often includes an intergenerational process of assimilation to the mainstream. In many families, the trade-off has been to give up language, cultural practices, cuisine, all in exchange for access to certain privileges and the opportunity to climb the social ladder. This history also includes pain. In New Orleans in 1891, the largest single mass lynching in American history was of 11 Sicilian immigrants who'd been mass arrested after the killing of the city's police chief. Teddy Roosevelt, 10 years before becoming President of the United States, wrote in comment, "Personally, I think it rather a good thing." The following year was 1892, the 400th anniversary of Columbus's famed voyage, and to ease diplomatic tensions with the Italian government and Italian immigrants, President Benjamin Harrison declared the first Columbus Day as a one-time national celebration. So began that assimilation process for Italian Americans by leveraging the myth of Christopher Columbus as a great American hero instead of a catalyst for an era of imperial colonization. Many Italian Americans today, myself not included, still cling to this myth as a source of pride. But there are plenty of actual Italian Americans to be proud of. Joe DiMaggio, Enrico Fermi, Saint Mother Cabrini, Dr. Anthony Fauci, Lady Gaga, Tim from Chicago, the list goes on. In Latin America, the Dia de la Raza is a way to acknowledge the intercultural identity of Latin Americans. In the years since, many communities in the Americas have made an effort to shift focus to the indigenous people of lands we call the Americas. In 2002, Venezuela changed its holiday's name to Day of Indigenous Resistance. Indigenous Peoples Day is recognized by many states and cities across the U.S., often in replacement of Columbus Day. And many communities have shifted away from Columbus towards a more general celebration of Italian Americans. In an era of increased scrutiny about who and what we hold up to commemorate, perhaps this will be a new way of observing two cultural groups in America with great importance. Thanks for listening.
Asexual Awareness Week, also known as ACE Week, is an annual campaign to raise awareness and build community around the world on the topic of asexuality. This year, the week begins on October 23rd and ends on October 29th. This year is the 12th anniversary of ACE Week. Derisively called the invisible sexuality, asexuality is a complex spectrum of identities centered on the asexual person's lack of sexual attraction, which is not to be confused with any of the other attractions one might feel, including romantic, aesthetic, and sensual attraction. Many asexual people do not want to be open about their identities as they experience significant acephobia, including being told they are experiencing mental illness, are broken, that they have just not met the right person yet, or that they are prudes. Some members of the LGBT+ community reject them as queer because they do not feel they have experienced enough oppression to be part of the community. Underrepresented in media and society, ACE Week seeks to change that and help the allosexual community, people who do experience sexual attraction, better understand their ace friends and family.